Everyone, I'm Lenora Haranaka from Talking EFL. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today our very special guest is no other than Richard Cauldwell. Richard has taught English in France, Hong Kong, Japan and in the UK at the University of Birmingham. Since 2001 he has published award-winning materials for listening and pronunciation. And also he's a two-time winner of the British Council's Elton's Awards, so he's just amazing. His most publications are Phonology for Listening, Teaching the Stream of Speech from 2013, and A Syllabus for Listening, Decoding from 2018. So let's welcome Richard to our YouTube channel. Richard, welcome to Talking EFL, and thank you so much for accepting our invite. It was a huge pleasure when we got your reply. We were really excited about it. Well, I am a fan. I've been a fan for a long time.
Well, thank you.
You're most welcome. So I have some questions for you, but feel free to talk about anything you find interesting or relevant. But the first question would be, I have a copy of the beautiful book, A Syllabus for Listening, Decoding, and I'd like to start with that. So what motivated you to write your book, A Syllabus for Listening, Decoding?
Well, I had written and published a book previously, Phonology for Listening, Teaching the Stream of Speech. But that was aimed more at issues which would be covered on master's courses, such as attitudes to accents and things like that, and speed of speech, and presenting people with a means of analysing speech. But A Syllabus for Listening is aimed more at teachers, teacher trainers and coursebook writers. So I really wanted to get in, get a little down and dirty, if you like, with what teachers and particularly coursebook authors need to get a handle on.
And exactly, I've been studying your book for various reasons. I work as a teacher and a teacher trainer as well. And after studying your book, visiting and using materials from your website, Speech in Action, it seems very clear to me that every teacher training course should tackle decoding when training teachers to teach listening. It seems pretty obvious, but they don't. So I was wondering, why do you think that is? What happens? Why people don't? Because this is like essential to help learners become better at listening. So why do you think that is?
I think historically, language teaching has been conducted through the written word, what I call in the book the sight substance, and so everything is hung on that, the sight of a word that you can look up, the sight of a word on the page that's preceded by a space and followed by a space, and even the model of speech that is used in language teaching is made simplified and cleaned up in order to make it resemble as closely as possible the sight substance. And so there's that. So there's the pull of the sight substance. There's also, I think, the avoidance of difficulty. I found it in my own teaching, and I say this in the book, that when I play a recording to a class, their initial response is to go quiet and frowning and clearly in difficulties. And for any new teacher, seeing a class frowning and struggling with difficulties is something that you don't want. And so you tend to go to the next activity. So there's been a profession-wide avoidance of the difficulties of the sound substance of speech and decoding it. So those, I think, are two of the reasons why. But the most important, perhaps the most important, is that the model of speech that is most promoted in English language teaching is the one that's appropriate for clear, intelligible pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
And the messiness of what I call the jungle, which is needed for the teaching of listening, is pushed out. There's no room for the there's no hang on, how can I best put this? There's been no room for another model of speech that fairly represents the messiness and the speeds and the unruliness of what people have to listen to.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because for some time it happened to me as well. I would just test listening and move on because
Mhm.
I wouldn't know what to do with their anxiety. So I just would avoid dealing with it. But as time went by, I really got more curious into how can I listen with them and really help them go through everything I went through as a learner. And then I am a Brazilian, so I'm a non-native speaker and teacher. And sometimes we have this impression that, and learners here know that, they are way more likely to talk to other non-natives instead of only British or Americans or Canadians.
Mhm.
So they are more likely to be nice to each other or to accommodate to each other. But when they have business meetings, when they travel, this is not really what happens. People, they struggle a lot. And for some time, people have been talking a lot about teaching ELF or English as a lingua franca. So lots of things we stopped worrying about in the classroom, but I'm not so sure this is really effective when they go into the jungle, as you put it, because I really love that
Yeah.
metaphor. So what would be your view on that?
Yeah, I discussed this explicitly in the introduction, part 7 of the introduction to the book. I said, if you are preparing students for a purely English as a lingua franca environment, and they have the skills to be able to moderate their speech and to adjust it to the abilities of their interlocutors, then people don't need the book. But I I've got huge respect for the English as a lingua franca movement and the
Mm-hmm.
benefits that it has brought to make people feel comfortable with their own accents and their own identities as language teachers. Um, but I think there's a danger that we believe that in English as a lingua franca interactions, that language is all the speech is always tidy and unmessy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as it's difficult for me because I don't participate in English as a lingua franca interactions. But when I look at the recordings that have come from the English as a lingua franca movement, I find similar phenomena, unruliness, and a variety of sound shapes
Mm-hmm.
in those recordings as well. So yes, if you are preparing people for a friendly um, environment where everybody can accommodate to each other and be nice to each other, then you don't need the book. But if there's a chance your students are going to encounter this other English,
Mm-hmm.
um, because even with other fellow non-native speakers who are under pressure, or if they're interacting with native speakers, that they need to be prepared for that.
Definitely. And well, I work a lot with new teachers, so just starting to teach in the company I work for and also as a career. And they usually, as you mentioned, they struggle a lot with classroom management, with preparing lessons and then teaching skills. And it's a really time consuming moment, or it really takes them some time and sometimes years to understand that they have to develop their own skills as teachers when they want to teach instead of testing listening. What would you suggest new teachers do in order to avoid waiting years before they really feel confident to do that?
Yeah, I think teaching them the basic metaphor of the greenhouse, the garden, and the jungle, and being able to present that in class and to use the dimensions at the front of the classroom to have a greenhouse area, a garden area, and a jungle area. And so to inculcate that metaphor, and then the fact that all words have multiple sound shapes. So all words have multiple sound shapes. So and then so plant that idea.
Okay.
So I think so plant the metaphor and plant that idea for the early for early for teachers who are early in their training and early in their experience. So and then to encourage them to, if they have doubts about the materials they are working with and the effectiveness of the approach, they should respect their own doubts. I write about this explicitly in the book. Respect their own doubts and to hold on to them. And of course, use the materials, but don't let the materials blind them to the realities of real speech.
Okay, thank you. I certainly will do that, and I'll get back to you to see how it goes. And well, now we would have like a moment for you. Like the floor is yours. If there's anything you'd like to share with us, I'd love to see you in Brazil one day. Have you ever been here?
I've never been to Brazil, unfortunately. I've been to Argentina twice.
We love them. It's okay.
Yes, so because my daughter-in-law is from Argentina and my grandson is half Argentinian. Okay. So, but I'm sorry, I have flown over Brazil, but I've never touched down. Okay. Going back to the idea that all words have multiple sound shapes. So in our training, as we go through our teacher training, we get taught about weak forms, which are the function words. So and the things like that. They have their weak forms. But all words have forms that are weaker than their citation forms. So all words exist. There's a cloud of sound shapes that surrounds every word, and I think it's really important to get that idea across and to be comfortable with that idea. And it's not just a matter of accents differing from one person and another. Even in the speech of one person, the sound shapes of a word can change. Like students can become stints, and everyone always can become Evanois. So, which is the example I gave in the else interview, the Elton's interview. So that's everyone always likes this. Evanois likes this. Evanois likes this. So it's the processes that make words weaken, if you like, or give them these streamlined sound shapes, which are an important part of my latest book. And so there's 2 chapters on streamlining processes, which enable you to generalize from specific examples to other words and to the language as is spoken by expert speakers.
Okay, that's brilliant, because I think the impression I have is that when learners realize that, their anxiety goes down and they say, it's okay. So it's like adjusting their expectations towards what they're going to come across as they go, and they have to speak English and listen to English from different sources. So it's really brilliant. Your book has been great help personally for me as a teacher and as a learner as well. So thank you so very much, and I do
Yeah.
hope you come to Brazil one day.
Yes,
Really,
I would love to, very, very much.
if you ever come to São Paulo, we are here for you.
Yeah. Can I just add, there's the book is now available as a Kindle, in a Kindle version.
Really
So that makes it easier to get.
amazing.
And if you use it on an Android device and the Kindle e-reader on an Android device, you can hear the sound files which are embedded in
Brilliant.
the electronic book. Also, if you have a Kindle Fire, sound files will work on a Kindle Fire.
Brilliant. So we're going to put the link on our YouTube channel as well to get access to your book straight away.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a huge pleasure. We are a great fan, really, and we do hope to go to England, go to the ITFL conference next year and meet you in person. And I'm gonna hug you. Okay.
Okay, hugs to you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye, bye.
Hey, it's me again. Thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed it, because we certainly have. So thank you, Richard. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can find the links to our social media, Instagram, Facebook, to videos and posts on the descriptions below. And we have also left in the description the link for you to access Richard's books, in case you haven't yet. They're really great and really, really helpful for all teachers who are passionate about teaching listening and helping learners succeed. Thank you very much, and see you around. Cheers!